Senator Kim.
Thank you, Chairman. Governor, it's good to see you.
Good to see you again,
Thanks for
too.
coming before our committee. I wanted to just ask you, not just about your work, but how it's going to fit into the broader incoming Trump administration. And in particular, I guess I'm uncertain about roles and responsibilities regarding your position and Tom Homan's. I guess I just want to ask you just point blank, like, who's going to be in charge of the border?
Well, the president will be in charge of the border. It's a national security issue, and the president is in charge of this country and has made a promise to the American people, and we will fulfill his agenda.
Well, that was a good answer. It's the answer I would have given as well. But I guess I got confused. When Trump made the announcement about Tom Homan, he said, quote, I'm pleased to announce that Tom Homan, and said that he's in charge of our nation's borders. So I guess, again, I'd just like to go back to you. How are you going to work with Mr. Homan? What is the division there? I'm trying to get a better sense of who's in charge.
Yeah, Tom Homan is an incredible human being who has over 30 years of experience.
Incredible experience.
Yeah,
I get
at
that.
the border,
I'm just trying to think through
the insight and wisdom.
Decision-making process
Yeah.
when it comes to your work. For instance, will he be giving orders directly to CBP, ICE, USCIS?
Tom Homan has a direct line to the president. He is an advisor to the president, the border czar. I obviously will be, if nominated and confirmed, and put into the position of being the Department of Homeland Security Secretary and responsible for the authorities that we have and the actions that we take.
I say this because I actually want to make sure that we're empowering the next Secretary of Homeland Security.
Yes.
You know, in the legislation that was codified by Congress and moved forward that started this after September 11th, it said, quote, all functions of all offices, employees, and organizational units of the department are vested in the Secretary. So I guess the reason why I mentioned this is I've just seen some quotes from Mr. Homan where he said, quote, I'll be making decisions on border security and deportation. He was asked in another interview about the stronger role that he'll play, and he said, absolutely, I'll be making decisions on how we do the border. So I just raise that as a concern of mine, because not only is that about the function of our executive branch, but also the capabilities of this committee to be able to properly do our constitutional duties for oversight, the ability for us to be able to have that conversation. We can talk to you, engage with you. That is the direct way. But if he is going to be making decisions, then he should come before this committee as well. And I know that that's something where, as far as I know, his role will be directly at the White House, is not something that will be under the purview directly of this committee. So I just wanted to raise those concerns.
Yeah. Tom and I work very well together and talk and communicate all the time, and we'll be working together on a daily basis when we're in our positions under the new administration. And I would say there's no authorities being planned to be taken away from the department or myself if I'm in the role, and
but
we'll
it sends
continue
some
to
mixed
oversee
signals.
CBP.
You can understand how people in my home state, maybe around the country, when they hear Mr. Homan saying, I'm making the decisions, when they hear President-elect Trump say he's in charge of our border. So, I urge, that we're going to try to do our best to try to make sure we're empowering the department, empowering the next secretary, because that's where, our laws are invested in our decision making.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Senator, and we'll make sure you have all the information that you need. And Tom working directly with the president and I working directly with the president hope to help you get all that you need to reassured that the authorities will stay the same as they currently are, but we will continue to work to secure that border and make sure that we're working together in that way.
I want to just switch gears about you raised the concerns about terrorism, especially foreign terrorist groups. I guess I just want to ask you, what are the major foreign terrorist groups that are, well, first of all, what are the major foreign terrorist groups that are out there that we're tracking? Which are the ones that are concerns to us in terms of potentially trying to inspire or coordinate an attack upon us? And if you can just give me a sense of what their current capabilities are to try to enact that.
Well, I think we face a lot of threats, Senator, and since I'm not in the role today, I shouldn't get into specifics with you, but I think
you can at least get into specifics about what organizations that are out there. Yes, so I just wanted to get a sense of your knowledge of the organizations.
All the traditional terrorist organizations that have always threatened the United States, but I would also say, Hamas, ISIS, continuing down that path of those terrorist organizations. But we'll continue to also focus, though, not just on those, but also the cartels, their partnership with the Chinese, and what they are doing. Listen, I've told people for years, for over 30 years, I've worked on national policy, on food policy, on agriculture policy, and I've seen the Chinese agenda to infiltrate our country, control our food supply chain, but also their manipulation of their currency and stealing our IP. And now I believe that this fentanyl crisis that they have flooded our country with is geared, and the purpose of it is to kill our next generation of Americans.
No,
I
don't discount the importance
when you
of
focus
those.
on one or two groups, I think it takes your eye off the ball as to where all the threats could come from. We just spent a significant amount of time talking about homegrown terrorism as well.
Correct. And I'm glad we're having that conversation. But the reason why I mentioned it, I was not trying to quiz you or anything of that nature. It's just that, when the Department of Homeland Security, when their threat assessment for 2025 lists 3 organizations, lists Al-Qaeda, lists ISIS, in particular ISIS Khorasan, and the IRGC and the threat from Iran. I just want to make sure that I get it. You're talking about the importance of the border. We all understand that. We want to work with the incoming administration to try to have an orderly process with that. But I just want to make sure that in particular DHS, the primary mission, if we look at the founding legislation, the primary mission, the very first mission is prevent terrorist attacks within the United States and do everything we can to minimize that type of threat. So, yes, I do think it's important for us to focus in on 1, 2, or 3, or just wherever these terrorist groups are at. Yes, I know that part of that effort to try to minimize terrorist attacks is through the work that we try to do to secure our borders, all of them, air, sea, and land. But the primary mission still is about preventing terrorism, not just the border security. That's a tool to be able to accomplish that. So I just raise that with you. I want to make sure that the next Homeland Security Secretary has a very detailed knowledge and understanding about the terrorist groups, their capabilities, and is tracking that on an absolute daily basis, and that they understand that is their top mission. And with that, I'll yield back to the chairman.
Senator Johnson.